believe in the ripple effect.
What's up? Another episode of the Ripple Effect Podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Ricardo Rendes, also known as Ricky France, and a great episode for you today. Today we did a Canadian freedom fighter convoy type of episode where I gathered friends of mine that either live in Canada or are from Canada to give me their input on what's going on there and their opinions on how it might end. And the people I gathered to join me, they're all returning guests. It's Darren and Graham from the Grimerica podcast, journalist and podcaster Mariam Haneen, T. Snyder from the Conspiracy Synergy podcast, John Sneisen from the economictruth.com website and podcaster, and last but not least, the fan favorite, Dr. Jessica Rose. And this was a really fun and long discussion, so I'll try to get through this intro as quickly as possible. Remember, this is a value for value show. If you get some value out of this conversation or any of my podcasts, please consider giving some value back. It doesn't have to be financially. Of course, rate the show, review the show. The algorithms are not helping the show. So the little act of tweeting it, sharing it on your social media accounts, telling people about it, reviewing it, all helps a little bit. And if you can financially support the show, there's a bunch of ways you can do it. We have a PayPal account if you want to send a one-time donation. We have a Patreon page if you want to support me every month. We have a merchandise store. You can go to the Ripple Effect Podcast merch.com. That will bring you directly to the store where you can find hats, hoodies, t-shirts, tank tops, mugs, kids' clothes, and a bunch of other stuff. So please check out the Ripple Effect Podcast merch.com, or you can go to the Ripple Effect Podcast.com, click on support, and you can find all these links. You can also find a crypto wallet if you want to send crypto. And you can also support my work by going to Rockfin, which is a video platform, and tipping and subscribing to my show there. You can find all the Ripple Effect Podcast episodes, video version of the episodes on Rockfin. It's also available on Odyssey, Float, Rumble, Band.video, and a bunch of other locations. If you go to my website, therippleffectpodcast.com, you can find all the places you can listen to and watch the episodes, and you can find all the ways of supporting the show, including the merch store, Patreon, PayPal, and last but not least, another way you can support the show is checking out the University of Reason and their courses, their classes, their books, everything that they're doing. It was started by Richard Grove, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with because he's a regular on the Ripple Effect Podcast and a regular on the Union of the Unwanted. He's also the host of Grand Theft World, and he started the University of Reason to give you the skills, self-esteem, critical thinking skills, and much more to pursue a life of fulfillment, finding methods and ways of getting more out of your life, pursuing a passion project as a career, and much more. So please go in the show description, check out the University of Reason, and just see if any of the courses or anything about the university seems interesting. And I think now more than ever, people are looking for meaning in life. People are looking to get out of the everyday grind of doing an unfulfilling job that you're not happy with and maybe pursuing something that you actually enjoy. And I think he can help, and he's helped a lot of people. I think he's on season 7, and there's so many people that he's helped out and now are doing tons of amazing work. I know Matt from Content Safe, which you guys might know as my IT guy and also a regular on this show in the Union of the Unwanted, has taken his course, and his company is just blowing up, and he's doing awesome, and he's helped me a lot with just getting my videos everywhere and protecting my work and also creating my website. So you can make a lot of friends, connect with people, get a lot of help, be a part of a community, and hopefully also pursue something you enjoy and find something of fulfillment, which is why it's a great partnership, because that's exactly what I try to do with this podcast. I try to give you guys something of value, spark thought, spark motivation to create your own ripple. And I think his courses and his university can help a lot of people do that. That's it, guys. Enjoy this podcast. It's an amazing conversation with some amazing friends. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Hello! I miss you.
How have you guys been?
You know,
Well, you keep busy. I mean, you're constantly writing on Substack. You're doing interviews, and I'm sure you're doing tons of research and work. On top of
I'm learning what glycine zippers are now. I mean, you could live to be infinitely old and you will never learn half of what there is to learn about human biology. It's insanely endless. I mean, just when you think you know stuff, you know nothing. And you have to start again. It's crazy.
Have you been researching the GLYNAC protocols and stuff?
No, what's that? See, I don't know anything.
Glycine and NAC, I guess, like high dose NAC and glycine is supposed to be very good for.
No, I'm researching this because of prions. Stephanie Seneff has recently informed the world, or not recently, but I watched one of her videos recently about the fact that prions are associated with these glycine zippers, and this spike protein that's in these injections have 5 of these. So it's like, I don't know anything about this yet, but I did double check what she said and I counted them and there are 5. And besides that, these pseudouridine things, which cause the protein to backfold on itself, it's basically defining a prion. And I'm like, Jesus.
No, you froze. People always freeze in the weirdest times. It looks like we just blew her mind. She just stuck there.
Frozen. I was frozen.
This too is perfect.
Well, I think more people might jump in. I know Tease and maybe a couple others might jump in, but we can basically start it off now and just kind of give the listeners something they're not used to, and that is me being more of a listener than a talker. So I'll we can do, because obviously I'm in the outside looking in on what's going on in Canada, and I know some of you guys or all of you guys are from there or live there or have family members there. I'd love to get your perspective on what's going on and all that stuff. Do you guys want to start off by maybe just letting us know your link to Canada, where you're from, where you grew up? Maybe you guys have some connections. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who wants to start?
Sure, I'll start. I'm Graham from the Grimerica Show. I grew up in Vancouver, basically in the Lower Mainland. Lived in Calgary and Alberta for the last 10 or 11 years. So finding myself in the freest part of Canada right now, although none of us are really free since I'm trapped in this country. Well, not really, but technically I am. That's about it for me.
How do you find the transition from the coast to the inland? My folks did the same thing, by the way.
I'm driving there tomorrow to see my family. I'll spend a week or 2 on the coast. I kind of miss the coast a little bit, but honestly, I don't miss I don't know. I mean, since I've been here, everything's changed culturally in a way, right? Everything's got sort of cancel culture-y, and Vancouver is very much like California or there's other sort of, they're very much like, I would say the majority of them are for the tyranny that's going on. I mean, there is lots of people standing up now. I guess we'll get into that later. But it's still very much like kind of California, I would say.
Yeah. I like your shirt, by the way. Sorry.
Thanks.
Jessica, you want to jump in and let people know? I know you probably have stated it in the past, but let people know where you grew up. Obviously, you're in Israel now, but you're originally from Canada. Let them know where you grew up and whatnot.
Well, I grew up. I was born in Ottawa, so watching what happened there 2 days ago it's not describable in words. I have nothing but fond memories of Ottawa because, you know, I grew up in Northern Ontario, and we used to drive to Ottawa as a family, like every single Christmas. And those were the happiest, best times of my life. They probably always will be. Most of my dad's side of the family is still in Ottawa, and I have no idea what their points of views on this are. And I must admit, it's probably my fault because I'm at a point now where I'm almost afraid to ask, because it's like, yeah, I've lost so many people along the way now, and it's really heartbreaking. And you know, you can only take so much heartbreak. So I'm sure they were among the protesters, but I don't want to find out if they weren't. Yeah, and then slowly I migrated to the East Coast, where I became a Newfoundlander because my dad was born there. So I'm kind of a Newfoundlander. 17 years I was there. Yeah, I miss my Canada, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about what's going on. I mean, because it's really hard being away from it. I'd like to be standing on the lines like this right now.
Miriam, you want to share where you're from in Canada? Oh, you're either muted. We can't hear you. Oh, now you're on mute. You know, you're not muted.
We can't hear you.
Hello.
Oh, there we go.
Jessica, you definitely have a Canadian accent still.
Oh, good. Wow. How is that possible?
Absolutely. I mean, I pick them off pretty easily. I am from Montreal, Canada. My mom is in Elmer, and I have things to say about her stance, being vaccine injured and listening to the media as opposed to her journalist daughter. And Jean-Claude, I do a show with him every once in a while called Quantum Woo, and he's been reporting on the front lines. My girlfriend has been going to the convoy and interviewed dozens of truckers, and yeah, surprised. You know, my mom says I haven't seen her in maybe 5 years, and it hurts my heart because my parents are the ones who are jabbed. And yet my dad's too scared to come to Florida, COVID infested Florida. And my mom uses her age and now her new respiratory issue. And she's like, Mary, just come and you can quarantine, and then you just have to wear a mask. And I'm like, F that, mommy. That's not happening. I'm not coming to Commie Canada.
So you're in Florida now?
I am in Florida. I bought a one-way ticket, I guess about 3.5 months ago from China-fornia when I became a second-class citizen, and didn't anticipate how crazy it would be to find a home in Florida. But,
yeah, everyone moved there.
Yeah, 2,000 people a week, they say.
A week? Holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, holy shit is right.
And people in the East Coast, where I'm from in Massachusetts, they're going down there. Like, it seems like every week somebody I know is like, oh, we're going down to Florida for a couple of weeks. We're going down to Florida for a weekend. It's like, since the beginning of lockdown, everybody's been migrating there. And yet they come back up here. And it's like, don't you guys get upset that you have to live in this craziness? And there are people down there living completely free and open. And there's no tragic ending to that. Like, there's no hospitals filling or whatever. So it boggles my mind that people wouldn't want our state to be a little happier and less tension, like some of the other states that we're enjoying more. You know, it doesn't make any sense. So for people listening, I mean, there's some people that I'm sure are from Canada that listen to the show. I have a lot of listeners from Canada, but there's a lot of listeners in other places who aren't really aware of what's going on. Maybe they're just trying to connect the pieces and try to figure out exactly what's going on. What do you guys want to give kind of like an outline on what exactly is going on in Canada?
Right now, I mean, since in the past couple of days, what has transpired?
Well, I guess what sparked the trucker convoy, what was it specifically that sparked what now has led to the chaos that is going on in Canada? because some people are hearing about this for the first time now. They don't even know the origin story of what caused it. You know, all the they're seeing the protests and whatnot. I guess you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like, and this is actually a very beautiful thing, because I know some Canadian friends of mine, including Graham, who I've heard him say on the show, had like very little hope for Canadian people to actually stand up and resist. And the only reason I ever believe that is because all the Canadian people I've ever met are so nice that it seemed believable to me. I'm like, they're so nice, they might actually just listen to whatever is told. But is it reassuring? Is it a Graham, I guess we'll start with you. Like, are you excited that you're wrong? That
Yeah. I mean, well, because I wasn't wrong before, but now I am. I mean, I think this is very reassuring on many different levels. I mean, first of all, it's finally given the people that are on the fence sort of direction on which way to go. So I guess the thing started really with Trudeau overstepping on the truckers coming in and out of the States and having to introduce a mandate to them. And if they don't get the jab, they have to quarantine for 14 days, which is just utterly ridiculous. So this was I think the tipping point, and it felt organic to me. I mean, it still sort of feels organic to me. And they got together and they decided, like, let's do another convoy. They had done a small one, I think, in the summer of 2021, I guess, or 2020. I can't remember when they did a small one before. And they said, let's do this again, and we'll go. And it just started gaining massive support. And I went out there and watched them go by in where I live. I drove an hour east of Calgary. There was hundreds of people. This is right at the beginning. And I was bawling my eyes out. I mean, just to see the people out supporting this freedom movement. And it was always going to be peaceful. And it has always been peaceful, which is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't infiltrated with violence like we thought it would be. So, yet, besides the cops and stuff. So this has given everybody a direction, and some finally people to stand up for the freedom that they've been wanting, I think, but been unsure of what to do. Like, I was pretty disappointed that nobody knows what to do. How are we going to stand up? So this is finally, and of course it's spread around the world, and it's been demonized by the media. I mean, this is where we're at right now. The media and the paramilitary that's in there abusing all the people that are peacefully protesting can't even show their logos or their names or their numbers. Like, the media they're not welcome anymore. Like, people in BC were just booing the media out of their protest, like just booing and yelling at them to go away. So it's finally, so the other inspiration is, not only does the world have sort of something to back right now, is they have it's just showing the colors of the media and the government. It's really bearing for all to see. Finally, people are going, wow, like this is really happening. I mean, freezing the bank accounts. I mean, we can get into some of those details.
Yeah.
But it's hard to even imagine. Like, and so to me, it's fantastic. It's just bearing it all for everybody.
I want to say that. So in the beginning, at one point, I said to myself, well, we're the perfect people to do this because we are so polite, and we do say sorry. I say sorry all the time, and it was only recent that it was like, oh yeah, I'm a Canadian. That's what we do. So it seemed like, oh, this is perfect. When I heard that they were raising money for GoFundMe, I've been banned since 2017. I'm an OG. And back then I had stated Accel Partners, which recently changed their name to Accel, has ties to Big Pharma, and questioned and would tell friends, don't use GoFundMe. They'll keep your money, or they'll shut you down. And I was wondering, well, where exactly is this money going? GoFundMe or Accel also invests in Spotify. And this was happening as the debacle with Rogan was starting up. So there was that question. When I called my mom, and this must be a week and a half ago, and I said, okay, mommy, what are you listening? What are you hearing? And she said, they're shitting in the street. And I said, they're shitting on our freedoms, mommy. And I said, you're like someone who has Stockholm syndrome, and you're defending your overlords. Meanwhile, you're injured. And I had to sit with her for an hour. She told me, do you remember Terry Fox? They got rid of him. and they toppled him. And then I sent her a picture with Terry Fox wearing a hat and a flag. I said, they left him better off. I said, and then this other thing that she told me, which I found brilliant, whoever seeded this in the narrative, they're preventing people who have COVID from going to the hospital because of the traffic. So people are not are not able. So then you become, you feel guilt-ridden. So despite the fact, she just said, oh, it's enough. They need to go home.
Well, do you guys, are you familiar with Trudeau and his links to the World Economic Forum? And you want to get into that and how he was part of like the young globalists? Do you know about this, Graham?
Yeah, the young global leaders. I mean, Klaus even said he's penetrated half of Trudeau's cabinet, right? So they're proud. He's proud of it. I mean, but what are you going to do? They just do what they want, right? It doesn't even matter anymore. It's all part of this infrastructure to basically control us, I think. I mean, but Christina Freeland as well is on there, a bunch of them. But they don't hide it. They don't care. They just overtly just display it for everybody to see. So,
Graham, when you get a second, could you put your volume up just a little bit?
Yeah.
Like it's coming in a little low, or we're all coming in low.
Yeah. No. It's probably me. Yeah.
But but I guess the positive thing, it does seem like this has sparked a global movement. And I almost feel like, before revolutions happen, like country, in one country, then another country, and they weren't really connected and linked. And it seems like now there's a global awakening happening. And the Canadians are a big contributor to that. I mean, I think they got pushed to the limits. And then the nicest of nice people finally had enough and said, I'm going to do something completely out of my character and push back and question everything and go out there and be vocal. So, I mean, I think there's some positive coming out of it. Obviously, the extreme lengths they're going to, from like freezing the money to, I mean, some of the violence that I've seen. Have you guys seen some of that? I mean, I'm kind of stuck in between. Do I think this is Trudeau's and the government's last hope of trying to reel things back in? And then, I mean, I almost feel like it's going to get to a point where they're going to have to give in. The UK, you see it now, like the UK just completely went in reverse. Like all of a sudden they're lifting every mandate. They're just
I think that's just a power grab. I think what we're seeing is the beginning of the end, because like in all like attempts for totalitarianism, apparently just before it's either going to happen or not, like if there are problems, they resort to like force and violence. So like that's what we're seeing right now. And I think the best part of this, which is a spin-off of Graham's thoughts, is that we don't have to do anything except just maintain our position, because Trudeau is sinking his own ship. Every time he opens his mouth, it's getting fouler and fouler. And even if you've been on the so-called other side, when you hear that with fresh ears, you can't not be repulsed by it, because nothing he's saying is Canadian. Nothing he's saying is pro-choice, freedom, liberty. He's violating the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms left, right, and center. He's doing illegal shit right now. So like, I don't know. I think these other power, Israel's doing the same thing. They're dropping the green passport. Like, yeah, right. No, you're not. You're pretending to do that so that we relax, and then you're going to do something shittier.
Yeah.
Like that's been the pattern. It's like,
Yes.
this. So like, that's why this Canadian thing is so important. Like, and I think, I mean, the fact that people were removed from Parliament building in front of, or in Ottawa in front of Parliament building, that just lit an even bigger fire in the hearts of Canadians. It's just like, it's spread too far now not to keep going, and the Americans are going to get involved soon too. And yeah, I hope that this is going to be it's going to buy us at least maybe another 10 years of non-tyrannical global rule. It'll happen eventually because we're so self-destructive, but you know, maybe we bought our kids some time to like fix this defect
Well,
we seem to have.
one of the problems with America, and it's like a pro and con, is like I was saying before, we could go to Florida, enjoy a state like that, then we can come back to shitty Massachusetts, and then just like, okay, well, things aren't that bad because at least I can go to a free state, or I can go to Texas, or I can just move wherever. Where like when you go to Canada, or you go to like Germany, or you go to, you know, these countries, they don't have these states where they're basically little countries within, you know, one country. So it's like they're completely run differently. The politics are saying something else. Like the way the U.S. has been designed, and I guess credit to the founding fathers, is that they were trying to give states a little bit more power than the federal government. So in regards to having just more power to control what happens in their own states. So that's kind of, you know, one of the benefits we have in the US. It's also, like I said, it's not always a good thing, because what ends up happening is instead of people trying to fix things in their states, they just move on to another state that they like better. So, and then those states just continue to crumble and be ridiculous, like here. And in Canada, like basically Trudeau has, he basically has what, the power to control everything and that policy everywhere, right? If I'm not mistaken, is that how things work there? You don't have states' power isn't as important, like little, you know, is that, am I right when I say?
I think the provinces, Alberta is the freest province, and I believe that it's the same thing as to here. I mean, they play good cop, bad cop. Let's say for instance with Florida, there are plenty of instances of craziness of people who have personally told me that the hospitals have killed their family members. I almost got arrested in Miami with the Miami University with the vaccine police. Went to a restaurant where I am here. They were wearing a mask. And it turns out it's their own choice now. They, you know, just like people suck their thumbs, they feel more comfortable now behind their face diaper, which shows that the trauma and the impact has been, it's successful. So as far as Canada, I just want to back up in regards to Trudeau. You know, if Trudeau, this is a year and a half ago, put pictures of him with his daddy Castro, and he is absolutely a Klaus Schwab World Economic Forum loyalist. But do the people who are still watching TV in Canada and who don't know any better, do they see through that? Do they see through the lies? Like my mom, imagine like a human being who is vaccine injured, who doesn't want to get another booster, but yet is not behind the truckers. So I'm sure there's plenty of that. There's so many nuances with what's going on with Canada. Let's say now I want to pose to Jessica and Graham and you, Ricky, if the Americans are going to join, and if it's not shut down, this, by the way, reminds me of Mad Max, but instead of dust, it's snow with all these truckers. Let's say Canada says, we need your help, America. And now, meanwhile, American truckers are going to cross the line. Is this going to make it easier for the New World Order, because maybe we'll have civil war? I mean, Canadians tell me there's a civil war going on now, and maybe they just meld North America and you're one step closer to a New World Order. I'm asking you, what do you think of that possibility?
Go ahead, Jessica, if you want, or I can answer it. I mean, I agree with you. I think it's, you know, besides the positiveness of this whole thing, which, to be honest, in the provinces, it has been a relief valve. Like as soon as they sort of embedded themselves there, the provinces started to sort of relieve some pressure, right? So now I can go out for dinner and I can play hockey again. You know, I still can't cross over the border technically, or fly back east on a domestic airline. So there's still federal problems, but the provinces at least have some autonomy to release some of the jab mandates and the mask mandates and stuff. And, you know, I still see a bunch of people, you know, walking around with masks, which is whatever, that's fine. But like Miriam said, there's still a bunch of people that are stuck in this, like, you know, in this sort of paradigm where they're still sort of brainwashed on what's happening. But I do think it's also dividing us more. So there's been a pretty good percentage of people that have sort of come over to sort of like the freedom side, let's say, that they weren't sure what to do, but there's still it's still dividing that other percentage, maybe 20-30% of the people that will never come over. So if I'm afraid of the violence breaking out, which will give them a bigger excuse to clamp down even harder. I mean, they're already literally blocking people's bank accounts that have donated $25 or more. There's hundreds of bank accounts that have been frozen. Like, this isn't just you know, a meme or something. It's really happening. So I'm worried about an overt civil war, that this is what they want. That's kind of what I worry about too.
And
Well,
just
that's
like,
what their aim is.
sorry.
That's their aim, but I don't think they're gonna achieve it. I just really believe that the Canadians will stop this time, or slow it down. I don't think we can stop the eventuality, but they can. They're definitely the people who can slow it down. And I think it's because of who they are, who we are, that, I mean, I don't know if, I don't know why Canada was chosen. Well, maybe it's because Canada is the way that it was chosen, because everyone's been saying that Israel's like, you know, the testing ground, but I think Canada is the testing ground for the bigger picture thing. Maybe we're the testing ground for the injections, but that's not the end game, right? The end game is the digitization. So, and the power, and, you know, in the, you know, beep, you know, every time you walk by anything. So, yeah, I think because what?
I love that impression. Like, anytime somebody asks me what the end game is, I'm just gonna go. I was told by PhD.
By the way, on that subject, I really resent the fact that they've stolen my dream of wanting to be a cyborg. I don't want that dream anymore. Bastards. I really did want that for myself, but now I'm not going anywhere near it because they bastardize everything good. They take all these brilliant genius technologies and they just, you know, I'm going to make money. It's like, you stupid morons. This isn't about money. Like, we're so much better than this as a species. Go away, you know, fester in a cave or something. Let us progress. That really pisses me off. Sorry, just a rant there.
I want to add that I agree with Jessica that it's like 3 steps forward, 5. Walensky said we're easing up on the mandates now so that we can crack down on them later. I mean, so what are they going to now, because of the truckers, going to ease off on their 10-year plan? And what is the latest right now? Well, my girlfriend told me they started freezing, as you mentioned earlier, regular people's accounts who donated $50 and didn't even participate in any other way. And she also says this is clearly the largest civil rights movement since MLK.
What about the Emergency Act also? You guys want to get into what that is? So they have the Emergency Act. We can get into, didn't they outlaw honking?
Yeah, they did, and they threw an old man to the ground. This thug moron threw an old man to the ground and arrested him, like full on cuffs behind the back. He was in his pajamas and it was icy, for honking his horn. That's actually, it's on video. That's what the cops said. And it's like, have you lost your freaking mind, dude? What are you doing? Like, and it's so clear that there's something very wrong in the heads of people right now.
I try to be optimistic. I kind of feel like the lengths that Trudeau is going to is going to wake people up. Like, this isn't, I mean, anybody who's still dumb enough to think this was about a virus,
Right.
it's like, how do you see what's going on in Canada and think this has anything to do with protecting people?
And why aren't the hospitals full after the millions of people gathered together? I mean, how come we're not seeing a surge in cases? I mean, shouldn't everyone be vilely sick from all the cold and the hugging?
Right.
Sorry.
To that point, this is not about Canada, but I spy on Lester Holt of NBC News, and it's been about 4 days that they're no longer talking about the vaccine, when that's all that they've been speaking about for 2 years. It was like Vax News, and now, 3-4 days not talking about it. And I do think it has to do with the truckers. If there's a reprieve, because they're like, okay, I think we've taken it as far as we can. Let's wait till we drop the hemorrhagic fever or whatever else they have up their sleeve, since virus hunters have been, on the move for eons. It's nothing new, gain of function. So
You want to know what I think?
Are there truckers now? I mean, I saw earlier today, my friend JC is on the ground, and I've been watching Viva Fry, who I've been following for a year and a half before he blew up over this. Do you know, Graham or Jessica, what's like the latest? Well, as far, are there in Ottawa or elsewhere, or are there? And if Canada is shutting down, where are these truckers from America? Who are they going to join?
Yeah, I don't know specifically. There's been a bit of a blackout. I know that a lot of my friends got arrested, but I also know that they're okay. I also know that of the many people they arrested that first time, apparently they just drove them down the street and let them out. They weren't.
Yes.
So like, I think people are just going to reconvene in a different way. Like, there's supposed to be an arm in arm along the Transcanada Highway, March 2nd. Let's announce that. March 2nd, there's going to be an arm in arm lineup of Canadian people along the Highway 1. We have one highway, so it's like not hard to find. So I think people are just going to regroup. And I think when they do, the numbers are going to be massive.
Yeah, there's another convoy going from Chilliwack, I think, to out west. I don't know how big it is or anything, but there's still these kind of convoys gathering and going around, and there's protests. In Calgary, there was more people than usual for a protest. Mm-hmm. So, and in BC as well, they're out with their flags and all that. All these terrorists with their Canadian flags, hugging people. I mean, and there's more trucks outside of Ottawa too. I mean, they just cleared the center, right? There was all these trucks still waiting and outside the thing. So and they I think they made a good decision. They're like, well, we're gonna keep it peaceful. We're not gonna resist arresting. Then nobody resisted anything. They're like, just arrest us, drive us out of town, whatever. They're just showing their violence, against the peaceful people. And they're just going to they're now going to maybe come back in, or there's other parts of the city that are still full of protesters, but you're not seeing that on the media. That the cops are acting like, well, they cleared the whole thing and all that, but they made a strategic sort of retreat, saying like, we're not going to we don't want anybody to get hurt, cause any violence. So they decided to regroup somewhere else, to leave and regroup somewhere else, which is fine.
Yesterday, I've been listening to the press conferences. By the way, I haven't listened to it yet, but there was a Canadian vote on the Emergency Act live at about 2:00. I don't know what was decided, but what they were prefacing or seeding the narrative is, this weekend, the one that just passed, is going to be a lot different than what we've seen in the past weeks before that. And so they kept on also saying the children make sure your children are safe. So it's a kind of a veiled threat. And they also did use these sonic directed weapons, which we know exist. Arguably, there was they've been used in the past, let's say at Astro World, so I don't know if you have either of you any comments on these sonic weapons, or the fact that they've been threatening with the children, and now they're seizing your money, people who've donated, and will they get their money back? And what happened to all the money in GiveSendGo? Where is that going? I mean, I personally care about where is this money going? I'm fine with it going to the truckers, but is it going to the truckers? If any of you saw Amazing Polly's report, which, you know, it took a lot of courage for her to come out and say that, because she didn't want to pee on anybody's party. But it's a valid thing that these 4 people are saying we're the organizers and you have to go through these channels. And then they blocked her on Twitter for being a journalist and asking appropriate questions. Anyway, sorry, I put a lot out there.
No, and how can the government do, or even just be comfortable doing that, taking all the hacked information of the GiveSendGo donors and then using that against them? I mean, it's not like they got it legally.
Did you see the map that's like posted on the interweb of all the it's like a GIS map of all the locations of the donors? I'm like, how is that public?
No, I didn't.
Dudes, this is like, if people don't understand how effed up that is, I mean, you need to do some soul searching. I don't know, man. Like that is so messed up that this is happening at all. I mean, it's beyond illegal. It's like, that's really messed up. But
and the hard part for us is there's so much disinformation there too, right? I think it was Fox or something that I was on a Zoom call with the Canadian COVID Care Alliance, like hundreds of people, doctors and scientists, trying to figure out what's going on as well. And people are in the chats are like, well, there's, you know, somebody just died from the horse trampling, and it's like, well. And then you see that it was Fox or something that posted that, and it didn't happen. I mean, so we have to be careful as well, which is so difficult to discern there's all kinds of disinfo out there that pushes, you know, sort of our side for freedom a little bit farther than it should, you know, or it's just going to rile people up when they shouldn't be riled up. I mean, UN planes now, and I called that the UN would come in just sort of as a half joke to my co-host Darren, but now I don't even know if that's true or not. Yeah, there's planes and there's a whole bunch of paramilitary here. Who knows where they're from? But I mean, it's all kinds of stuff that's just muddies the waters.
Yeah, but those guys, the main guys, those weren't Canadian soldiers.
No, exactly.
Clearly, they're like the thing that struck me, in addition to the clear heartbreak of what was going on, was like those guys who have these demeanors and they're trained not to talk to you, and you know, the ones
even look at you in the eye.
Yeah, exactly. They're trained like that's they're like the robots. They really are. They're militant, they're robotic, they're unemotional because they're trained to be, and that takes years. And so my first thought was like, where the hell and when the hell did those guys get trained to do this to Canadian civilians? Because this is, it's weird. It's like I was watching it happen in Australia when it happened, or as it's happening, and I'm like shocked and mortified, but I'm also like a little bit detached. But when I see it happening in Canada, it's like, yeah, I don't know. There was something very, very wrong with what I was seeing. It's like, I'm not even sure what I'm trying to say, but
no, it's gross because it's based on lies, right? That's the hard part for me, is that you see the lies so blatantly in the media, and the government can just do whatever they want. And then this violence is based on lies. That's what's so irksome to me. Like, it's not just a real battle, of this ideology versus this one, or it's just completely false.
No, this is militant bullying. This is tyranny. Like somebody compared this to Tiananmen Square, and it's like, it freaking is. It's like, did you see how many people were there? I mean, these paratroop, did you see how many there were?
Yeah.
And the helmets they were wearing, and their armored vehicles and their M15 rifles. What on earth? Like, these beautiful Canadian people, they're just our neighbors wearing toques. I mean, does anyone actually think that a toque is any match against an armored helmet? Like, what the hell are you people doing? So it's
Right.
like, those aren't our people. And I think that really, a lot of people are cluing into that. It's like, okay, we need our armed forces and our police forces to come to the side of
Yeah.
us, because they need to do their job and protect the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and the people. That's their job. That's their job. But that's the part I don't get. It's like, why are you protecting a freaking tyrant? Because that's what he is. You can hear it in his language. No one needs to tell you a goddamn thing. Just listen to him. He's a tyrant. He's a bully. He's a wiener. He's been hiding this whole time. And all these truckers wanted, just to go back 3 weeks here, because this started 3 weeks ago, all they wanted was to talk. And that was genuine.
I hear
All they wanted was to talk to him.
I hear one of Trudeau's disguises while he was hiding was blackface.
Did you guys see the cartoon? I have to send it to you, Ricky. So somebody made a cartoon with like Trudeau and a trucker, and it's like he's going from person to person, like convincing them to get jabbed, and he's like, good, good. Because everyone keeps bending over and saying yes, and then he goes to the trucker and he's like, no, I don't think I'm gonna do that. And he's like, do it! And he's like, no, I don't think so. I think I'm just gonna go sit in my truck. And he's like, do it! And his face turns all red. And then they're like, we turned red face into black face because they like pushed him. They honked their horn and he fell into a puddle of mud. Anyway, it's really funny. I'll send it to you.
Miriam said, and I'm curious if you guys heard the same thing. The energy weapons, that's something I actually just looked it up now because I'm like I was trying to find out where I find it. Is this
They did it in Canberra too. Yeah, look at that. Look at that.
on the Canadian website, Canada,
Yep.
and
I guarantee you, Ricky, that's freaking new.
probably. And look, where possible, not always, but where possible, don't use it. Where did I see pregnant women? Yeah, where possible,
Where possible.
Whenever possible,
I cannot believe I expected this like a InfoWars article to pop up when I Googled it, and instead,
Right?
like
The government.
Well, they've probably done more testing with those than vaccines on pregnant women.
good point.
Like, not joking, because there's no safety testing on these. Oh my God, don't get me started.
When that's what I'm to piggyback on what Jessica said. When I saw all these armed guards, and I'm like, you have nothing better else to do. You're really wasting your time and just following orders to cut up, to disrupt this peaceful protest. And with that, think of all the energy and time we've wasted on BS, whether it's like to get tested, people who are literally waiting in line hours to go in. I'm going to go get tested with the PCR test. That's not even a test.
Let's see ya. Have fun with that.
So when I got sick a couple of weeks ago, which I think now is radiation poison exposure, because I'd had no lung or no sore throat, and someone's like, go and get a test. No, thanks. I don't need to go get a test. It's not a test to label myself with whatever. It's just like the Queen got tested. It's like, hello, we're all going to be positive if you take these bullshit tests.
Yeah,
that's the whole point.
DNA. So like basically, anyway.
To get you in the track and trace, and it's like the Queen is still conducting her everyday duties. And I'm like, what does this 95-year-old, what are her everyday duties?
Yeah, well,
God bless you, Queen Elizabeth.
What were your symptoms?
Yes, what were my symptoms? So I went to a salon to do my eyebrows, and it was a freshly boosted woman with 2 masks. And what happens to me is, if I'm near a boosted person, it's only happened a handful. I get a wicked 5-day headache, and I don't suffer from headaches.
Can you describe your headache?
Yes, it feels magnetic. It's like, whoa, whoa, and it's frontal lobe. And it's like, I guess, I'm more of a migraine, which again, I don't suffer for them, and they are long lasting. Then I had fever. And then on the 19th, which is supposedly the day that they amplified, but I couldn't prove it other than I was in Miami and they canceled several flights. I was throwing up. I was in yoga class and I almost fainted twice. And I remember saying, Omicron makes you dizzy. And I had watery stools and I was nauseous, so nauseous. And then I lost my sense of smell and taste, which really freaked me out. And then I was doing a deep dive on the link between Liber and nanotech and 5G, 5G, and saw on the CDC site radiation exposure. So I had nothing respiratory, nothing. So I do not think someone's like, oh, you have a COVID, you got the Delta, the old COVID classic. No, I don't. No.
What about your menstrual cycle, if you don't mind me asking? Did that get disrupted?
Well, I just had surgery like in September from fibroids. So I was bleeding very much on the regular. And since then, since the surgery, it's been resetting itself. So I can't really tell you. But I have interviewed several body workers that get cramps, bruises, a whole bunch of irregularities with their menstrual cycles from touching vaccinated people.
So can I share with you my story too? So this is fresh news for the world. Like, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, I developed a headache. I'm like, I'm healthy as a horse, knock on wood. And I don't even know what a migraine is. And I developed this headache right in the middle of a podcast. If you watch the podcast, it was with nurses. It's called Ask the Nurses. And I start rubbing my head and it's like, it was so bad. I felt like I needed to get out of my head. And it was exactly what you just described for me. It wasn't pulsing. It was a constant pressure like this that was just right here, like very, very, very focused. And it lasted for freaking a week.
Yeah.
Like I thought this is it. But not only that, I have tinnitus because I'm a musician and I used to go to a lot of loud concerts. So I know what the ringing is, but I developed a new tinnitus in this ear, which was, and this is going to sound insane, but it was like someone was tapping out Morse code. I'm hearing myself say this. It sounds insane, but I'm describing what I heard, what I felt. In this, it was like, it wasn't like the same, but it was like this. Like someone was tapping out Morse code in my freaking ear, and it lasted for days. It was when I was sleeping, it was when I was awake, it wouldn't go away. Like no matter where I was, I would go on my walks and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have a blinding headache and this for the rest of my life. Like that's how long it lasted.
What triggered it, Jessica? Do you think?
I have no idea. And then I'm on a lot of groups. And I was like, okay, so I got exposed. I have this theory that I get exposed to the shit in the water because I'm a surfer and they dump the wastewater like right.
Yeah.
So of course there's lipid nanoparticles everywhere because everyone's on their fourth injection here and it's just going everywhere. So I was like, okay, I got exposed. But then one of my colleagues said, oh, that's COVID. And I'm like, what? It never even occurred to me. I was like, you're crazy. And they're like, no, it sounds exactly like you just had Omicron or something. And I'm like, no. And so I don't know, right? Because I still don't know what any of this is. I haven't defined it. But it was very unusual. It sounded just like what you described. It went away. I feel, normal again. But yeah, it's interesting that you're talking about radiation sickness because about 2 weeks ago, I also started reading about the symptoms of radiation sickness, and they do line up very well.
Yes. I'm trying to
Uh,
find a paper that someone sent me. Sorry, I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt.
it's okay. And also you're just on that, what you just said, there is work in prestigious journals
Yes.
that shows evidence of, bad things happening in reference to certain radio wave signals. So it's like, and of course, nobody's testing anything. What the 5G's rolled out all over the world. You guys should look up OOKLA maps and just look for yourselves how widespread these things are. And they're not all turned on, but it's like, it's mind blowing. When did all that happen? Like, when did that happen? And what is the effect on living cells? Because the literature says it's not a good thing. It's not good for blood cells. It's not good for plant cells. It's not good. So it's like, yeah, it kind of makes you wonder, like, why am I getting these headaches? If you're a rational being, you're like, okay, am I dehydrated? Am I, do I need more caffeine? Do I need to get some sunshine? You kind of go through the list. And if all those boxes are ticked, it's like, okay, there's some kind of external influence here. I don't know.
There's a this is from the Journal of Clinical and Translational Research, and it's
Right.
evidence for connection between coronavirus disease and exposure to radio frequency radiation from wireless communications, including 5G. Now, the
Right.
thing is that some people are not sensitive. I happen to have lived across a 5G pole in 2018 in Beechwood, where I had fever, low-grade fever for 40 days. This last time I was sick for 3 weeks, and but I had a low-grade fever, which is a crime now, even though it's your body doing what it needs to do. And in fact, I didn't take any Advil or anything to disrupt the fever to allow my body to do what it's, what it needs to do to fight this off. But 3 weeks of being down for the count, I mean, I still worked and operated, but I wasn't feeling good. And I didn't feel like I had the Rona, like, oh, I was infecting others. I wasn't sick. So who knows what the overlap is and how many people are confusing or go and get this BS PCR test and then like, oh, I have the Rona.
Which is really dangerous because, like, I'm a scientist. There you go. And zoom in, like, to North America, California. It's insane.
What is this? So for people,
These are the 5, you can see on the top right, they have commercially available, limited availability, and the pre-release, which is like the testing phase. So you can click on that one too. And I guess they're testing different frequencies in the pre-release, like to see the effects on, I don't know what they're, if they're testing safety. I mean, I don't know, but look at that. Isn't that crazy?
Right.
And what I've been dying to do, but I don't want to give up my personal information, is to get the GIS data, because I did a GIS analysis course, and overlay this with like the places that have the highest rates of adverse event reports. And I'm almost positive there would be some kind of overlap. Although, that sounds a little bit like maybe, no, I don't know. Nothing sounds paranoid anymore because none of us know what the hell is going on. It's like, this is a weird like simulation, and I want out.
What I think is important, and I've done this recently, is go back and watch some of the documentaries that really helped expose us, like The New Normal, which is I think
The Matrix.
Matrix. But if you go watch Mickey Willis's documentary, if you go watch The New Normal, or even COVID Land's pretty good, the InfoWars documentary. If you watch any of those, and there's another one too that I'm forgetting that actually came out not too long ago. That whatever, it was on like a brand new YouTube or whatever it's called, that platform.
The Canadian one?
Is it a Canadian one?
The one, it's called I Am Not a fuck. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's a great show.
I love it.
It's a Canadian doco with like 6 people telling their adverse event story.
Oh, I don't know about that one. Yeah.
It's a
Oh, yeah.
really good one, really good.
I'll have to, yeah. Well, but what's interesting, right, is like when you go back and rewatch those documentaries, and the most interesting part of those documentaries are when they show the news clips and they show the politicians and they show the scientists and the experts, because it reminds you how far we are from the predictions, right? Like we almost forget how they slowly kept moving the goalposts. You know, like before it was about like the spread of the disease, COVID-19, the disease that can kill people, the respiratory disease, and slowly they mutated it to stopping the spread of a common, you know, of a virus. You know, coronaviruses are common. That's why I said common. Obviously, this one specifically is not so common. Well, it is now. Now it's everywhere. Everybody's had it. But when it first was exposed, it was new, and people were afraid of it because it was a new strain. And but they've completely manipulated the narrative, and it's about stopping the spread of a virus, not the disease that's supposed to, you know, fill our hospitals and cause all this chaos. And to me, that's what's really concerning, because it's like, how do you like now justify like stopping the spread of a virus? We're exposed to viruses all the time. We're exposed to, you know, unknowingly, right? And it's like we're constantly interacting with people and things that are putting viruses in our systems and whatnot. If you just choose a common virus, and say, hey, let's test everybody for this, let's stop the spread of this.
But that's what we're doing. It's a freaking coronavirus. It has cross-reactivity with cold viruses. I mean, it is a cold virus. It's just insane.
And we have a virome. We have a virome with bazillion viral particles.
Yeah.
And it's very convenient that Carrie Mullis isn't around, because what would he have done in this
You would have gone
replay?
surfing.
Sorry?
You
Say
would have
again?
gone surfing.
Right, he was a surfer.
T.
Oh,
So
are you the one with the Carrie Mullis quote?
Yeah, that's me.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
I think him and I would have gotten along really well.
I second that. Yes, he was a very interesting guy. He was actually very fascinating, you know, just outside of the PCR thing, you know, and he gets referenced in the Joe Rogan podcast episode like 280 something, when he had Dr. Peter Duesberg on, who is the guy who there's a big spin article in the 90s that kind of shared his perspective on how he thought the HIV virus didn't lead to the deaths and AIDS and all that stuff. And in that podcast, and I've gone back and re-listened to it, it's interesting because he brings up Carrie Mullis. He also brings up Dr. Fauci, and these were names that are now household names, but at the time, you know, I remember listening to the podcast, and that's why when all this stuff was coming, being talked about in 2020, and these names were being brought up again, I'm like, oh, I know these names, but from where? And when I went back and re-listened to that podcast, I'm like, oh, you know, it was a part of his story, because he got demonized. Dr. Peter Duesberg was a very respected a person in the science world, and very respected by his peers. And then all of a sudden, like once he kind of went against the grain, all his funding stopped. And he got demonized. So it's very fascinating. It's not, you know, these characters have been around for a long time.
Yes.
And a lot of people who've been outspoken way before 2020, unfortunately, didn't have the, you know, they were demonized before anybody really knew that people were being demonized, who were going against people like Dr. Fauci and whatnot. Tease, I know. So when we started, we kind of shared a little bit about our I said I'm not from Canada, but everybody else who has a connection to Canada. Oh, and actually John's jumping in now too. Better late than never, guys. And
no, I'm really sorry I'm late, dude. I apologize. It's
Hey,
not
like
like,
2 hours late, guys.
it's killing me.
No,
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 my dates
sorry.
mixed up.
My apologies.
I thought it was tomorrow. I'm so bad. I'm so terrible. I feel bad for missing the conversation, because that's what I wanted most, was just to hear what you guys have to say.
Oh,
So
don't worry, we're not done yet.
yeah.
I missed a call by 24 hours once.
cool. I'd do it better than that. All right, awesome.
Well, what we did was when we started off, I just kind of, because obviously this is kind of I wanted to kind of focus. Obviously, anybody who listens to the show knows that I never focus on one thing too long. But I was trying to focus on Canada and what's going on in there specifically. So I opened up with kind of letting people know a little bit of their background and their connection to Canada, where you grew up, and that type of stuff. Tease, you want to let the other Canadians know what part of Canada you're from?
Yeah, sure. So I'm over in Edmonton, Alberta, and it's surprisingly asleep as compared to the rest of the country, wherein, like, if you look at the next largest city in Alberta, it would be Calgary, and if you look at their protest movements, it's about 10 times the size of what it is here. And when you do get the outpouring of support, which has very much increased since the whole trucker convoy thing started, it's something that prior to that, you'd see a cap of about 150 to 200 people most at any given protest at any given time, and now it's in the thousands. And so it's really delightful and wonderful to see that that's finally at long last happening, because I've been part of those rallies for a very long time and gone door to door trying to garner support and everything, and it just wasn't there. So it's really quite a momentous shift in not necessarily awareness, but willingness to stand up and be seen with that in a public capacity. And that's what's a delightful thing that's come to bear out of this whole thing. And then you see the response to that, and that kind of dampens everyone's spirits, and they come to realize that, hey, this is a long haul game. I thought it was going to be a quick one, and it's like, oh no, this is a thing that keep on going. And yeah, so I'm in Edmonton, and I've been at the legislature. I do a particular weird brands of protest. I sit in like a rabbit suit on a red beanbag chair, holding out red scrolls for people to grab in a funny, non-confrontational way. And it's working really well. So that's something that I continue to do. But yeah, that's sort of my background. I run the show Conspiracy Synergy, which is designed as an encapsulative overview of the entire alternative media. So some of the people who may have been on this episode that I didn't get a chance to actually listen to yet might have been a part of that, but it's designed to introduce the entire quote unquote normie world to the depths and the trenches that we have been in for a long time, so that they can be introduced in a more palatable and
very good, very important.
Way. Yeah, because if you scare them too much, they try and sink back into themselves, and so
yeah, and also the access points. How do you resolve that? Because like if you're like, you know, consumed by the legacy media, where on earth are you ever gonna like even hear about bitching, for example?
Oh yeah, exactly. So it's really just outreach in the real world in increasingly consolidated echo chambers that are designed to make it so that we feel as if our voice is being amplified, which is almost like an egotistical resonance that can be actualized, but within the way in which we're experiencing censorship, it's self-defeating. So we have to be out there in the real world, reaching out to the people who otherwise just feel helpless. And without that, it's nothing.
Yeah, very good. Nice.
John, you want to let people, well, before we get to John, Jessica, Daniel, I don't know if you guys know, but we had a podcast not so long ago with this guy, Daniel, who was the personal bodyguard / sniper for Trudeau on the podcast. And I invited him on. I haven't heard back. I have heard some rumors that he got arrested. Do you know if there's any truth to that?
Oh yeah, he did. But he's okay. I actually asked Brian Peckford to come on this call too, but he's just, you know, he probably didn't even get my email. He's so busy. He's very mad right now. That would have been awesome. He's such a great guy. But yeah, Daniel's okay. But he didn't have many words to write, because he's probably, you know, I left him alone because I'm like, you need to focus on what you're doing right now. Because I mean, they're in the shit. The fact that we're not hearing, like, well, I'm not hearing from the main people tells me like that they're fighting for our lives right now, and we need to like let them do that. So yeah, he's okay. He didn't say much more than that, but yeah, he did get arrested. Believe that or not, I mean, it's like, so what do you know who he is, you morons? Like,
crazy.
You know, they don't know who he is, and it's like, I don't know. Anyway, let's go to the John, because
To the John. Let's go to the John, which in
The
America means go to the
John.
bathroom.
segue.
Hey, John, when we opened up, we started just letting everybody know what part of Canada they're from. So do you want to let us know where you grew up or where you live? Can't hear you. John, we can't hear you. You can hear us, but you might just have to change the mic setting. This isn't your first rodeo. I know you'll figure it out. But, well, while John's figuring that out, we briefly talked about it. What is the Emergency Act? Because we're hearing people talk about
Hello?
it. Oh, there you go, John.
A little bad connection there on the microphone. Sorry, guys.
No problem.
Yeah, no, I grew up in Norway for 25 years. Then I moved to Canada, where I now currently reside north of the capital city of Manitoba, Winnipeg. So that's that's my background. So I've seen, you know, in Norway, growing up in Norway, what's happening there, and it's happening all across Canada right now. We would just lose more and more rights, more and more authoritarian, bigger government, more taxes. And of course, Norway and Canada is extremely similar. We're some of the most indebted countries in the world as well, on top of, you know, having a very influential political elite, you know, around the world. Norway is probably a little bit more almost because we have like the head of NATO right now. We used to have the head of the United Nations, the World Health Organization. We have people that sit high up in the European Council. That Norway is not even a member of the EU, but we sit on the European Council for some reason. And of course, we're inundated. Norway is inundated the United Nations, you know, with a whole bunch of people as well. The second in command at the World Economic Forum is Brende Berge Brende. And then, of course, one of the top guys at the Financial Stability Board was a former central banker from Norway. So Norwegians are very like connected to, you know, and really influential in the world governance. And most of them actually comes from one party only. It's the Labour Party of Norway. And so it's very similar to the Liberals in a way as well. Like they're supposed to be for the, you know, for the workers, but what they really are is a semi-fascist, you know, and they have their roses, you know, and their logo as well in the Norwegian Labour Party. So, of course, we know the 22nd of July in Norway what happened there, but Stoltenberg then suddenly getting appointed after that for his role in NATO now, and now is coming back to become the central bank chief of Norway, still as a member of a political party. That has never happened. But his good buddy Torbjørn Jagland, that sits there, you know, lets him in. So yeah, lots of corruption in Norway, but let's get back to Canada. Anyways.
Parties are so fast and loose with words like liberal and labor. Yeah. It's like,
well, it's like left, you know, let's not mistake it. Yeah, it's left to center. And right now, actually, I'm working on a massive list, like the 3,600 people that was global leaders for tomorrow, young global leaders. So I'm like 270 people in. I'm just currently looking up some Canadians right now, since we're talking about Canada. Like we got Francois Philippe Champagne. He is on there. We got Cynthia Freeland. Actually, Michelle Rempel on the PC caucus right now sits, you know, is at the World Economic Forum. Actually, what we got to understand is that this lady, Cynthia Freeland, she's actually the finance minister of Canada. She sits on, you know, the money bag, and of course she enacted the insane law right now, the Emergencies Act. Like, I don't know if you saw when she stood behind Trudeau, she acted like she was having a panic attack, and so she probably understood what she actually did, on top of understanding what her role is, you know, probably in the bigger game of this. But you know, she is really struggling with herself as a person right now. You could really see it, because anybody that, you know, basically says that Canada should become a very near a dictatorship is, you know, shouldn't be very happy about themselves. Anyways.
The link I shared, Ricky, is Cynthia's. It's Cynthia speaking about the Emergencies Act. I don't know if you want to show it or.
Oh, I did. Did you guys not see it?
Oh.
Oh,
we saw it. We didn't hear it.
Sorry.
But yeah. We did see it.
Oh, you want me to? I can play it.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's hear it.
It might make you puke. But
Terms of
Yeah.
which our government is using right now to act against these illegal blockades and illegal occupation. We reviewed very, very the tools at the disposal of the federal government. And we used all the tools that we had prior to the invocation of the Emergencies Act. And we determined that we needed some additional tools. Now, some of those tools, we will be putting forward measures to put those tools permanently in place. The authorities of FinTrack, I believe, do need to be expanded to cover crowdsourcing platforms and payment platform and their payment providers. So that is something that we need to do and we will do, and that needs to be in place permanently. Some of these
Permanently is a key word there, guys.
Nice.
like
Permanent.
the sharing of information between law enforcement and financial services, and the requirement of financial services to be reviewing their accounts proactively, and the immunity from prosecution that we have provided to them in doing this. These are extraordinary measures that we absolutely believe are necessary in the current circumstances that are having an impact. Let me also point out having a peaceful impact. And the other aspect of the financial tools that I would point to as being really effective and important is being clear that insurance on trucks that participate in these illegal occupations and blockades will be suspended.
What?
So we didn't have those tools. I don't believe that those tools should be part of the toolbox of a government in ordinary times, but they are necessary in these extraordinary circumstances, and they are having a very clear impact.
Does she know that she just for 2 minutes said a bunch of bullshit, nonsensical, like this is such crap.
But actually, what is happening, that bullshit and crap? So let me tell you a story. I was just talking to a fund manager, like a high up guy in the Royal Bank of Canada, and he is understanding of what's going on with the World Economic Forum. And so he said, like, probably 99% of people in finance have no clue what's going on. But what he said, though, is that as soon as the FinTrack thing came in, there was a whole like mass outage along a whole wide array of banks in Canada. And then suddenly both, and we're talking about both banks and also crypto exchanges in Canada, suddenly had right away, they had a KYC applicable for any transactions over $1,000. So this is capital controls that they're slowly introducing into Canada. And what does capital controls do? It actually inhibits you from transferring money out of your country, like Turkey, like Tunisia, like Argentina, and other countries out there, Venezuela as well, that are controlling the flow of capital, so you can be able to run out of the country with a whole bunch of money, basically. That is the start of it.
So I was listening to Robert Gruller a couple of days ago, and he said that they were sharing crypto wallets with the authorities. And I thought, how is that even possible? And why also were the organizers or the people who were in charge supposedly of the Gives and Go talking about crypto? I mean, what's really going on here?
Well, so the crypto is easy for them to share wallets, because if you have your money at an exchange, which you never should, you should have a private wallet. If you had them on the exchanges, it's easy. It's actually connected to a KYC, and a KYC is basically know your client. It's a anti-money laundering form that was implemented like 20 years ago. So they know exactly who you are and who has the account there. So that's super easy for them for these exchanges. Just basically freeze your crypto account, and then you don't have access to your crypto. Now, if they were smart, they would have sent that money out to some other wallet and maybe sent it around to others or into a privacy cryptocurrency to be able to protect themselves better. But the people that actually were on, like, let's say Coinbase or Coinsquare, or any of those major exchanges that you have access to in Canada, it's it's fair game now. Like basically the government has implemented a law that could suddenly just freeze your bank accounts if they believe that you are an insurrectionist, as they like to call people.
Right. The Ottawa police chief said, quote, "If you're involved in this protest, we will actively look to identify you and follow up with financial sanctions and criminal charges." This was 2 days ago.
We're in essence gradually moving towards what was the trial balloon approach being put out in Australia and in New Zealand. That's how they'll do this in a global implementation, is on regional design by what they were able to observe efficacy with in another portion of the world. So we saw the full-blown draconian human rights violations happening in Australia and in New Zealand, and now we're starting to see different sort of head trial balloons being inched out, because this is ultimately a game of inches. And so they're sort of putting those things out to establish a permanent infrastructure. Even the sort of branding of the World Economic Forum itself, if you think about it, can sort of be a long-form chew toy. Because even if we do ultimately sink our teeth and our energy into destroying and disbanding that superficial branding and infrastructure, what the remains will be the normalized way in which we have been adjusted over time. And so the trial balloon effect in a war game to actualized long form simulation are the changes that happen to us in response to fighting it, as much as it is, you know, what it is itself. So that's important to bear in mind. It's like these are trial balloon that are very real and beat us to death over a long war of attrition, basically.
Tease, do you think that this was expected, this sort of the whole freedom convoy, this whole global movement, or did it catch them a bit off guard?
It caught them off guard, and it's expected at the exact same time. So if you get into the way in which the Pentagon works, they're always having every single potentiality strategized in war games, such that when it actually comes to a head, they'll have their various different people who they can compromise or they can lean on in any different direction. So at any point, they have a contingency built for it. That is by design the infrastructure of the system. You could really look at it from the perspective of kind of like, if you look at the predictive programming matrix that they've built in the show Westworld, they have the program Solomon, which is the giant evil brain thingy that they feed into the entire population, and that we sort of like bounce our free will against, but it ultimately determines what is or is not viable or possible. That's a very real metaphor for what happens in the bowels of the deep state. They have actualized these things such that every single person is a participant in that, whether they themselves are consciously aware of that or not. And we're not really ultimately going to be able to escape that until we as individuals become more and more aware of the degree of hyper control, and that modern warfare is in essence the subtle nuances of our own actions and our own beliefs.
Hey, Ricky, how does this differ? I mean, haven't you guys been dealing with this in the States for a long time? I mean, can't the U.S. government just come and take your shit at any time for assuming you're part of a crime?
Well,
the way I look at this is we're just introducing civil asset forfeiture into Canada.
Yeah, good point. One thing I said earlier in the show was what makes me a little bit skeptical that a global revolution or uproar will happen in America like Canada is because there's so many open states here where people can just go to. So instead of like being like, I have nowhere to run, I've been pushed far enough, now let me revolt. People will just be like, well, let me, instead of revolting, because that's a lot of work, let me just go down to Florida and enjoy life for a little bit and then come back to this shitty state, you know? So I think that's one of the reasons why you're seeing uproar in places like Germany and France and other places where they have the federal government has a lot more say, where in the US, like I said before, it seems like the way the founding fathers kind of structured it was in a way of like, okay, let's give states basically almost ultimate power over their state, and the federal government will have limited power over that. So it gives us the freedom. So it's kind of like a pro and con, right? Because like I said, the good thing is, like, if you live in a state that you're not happy with the policies or the government there, you can go to another state. But the bad thing is, because you can always move to another state you like better, those states that will just continue to get worse and there won't be any change there. So it's weird. You know, we're living in a crazy time. I feel like in Canada, from the outside looking in, it's almost like I'm watching a televised revolution, revolt, like taking down of a government happening in real time. And that might be a extreme, I guess, statement, but that's what it kind of looks like.
Well, I
Have
think
you
that's part of the problem, is that's how they're trying to paint it, is that no one's trying to take over the government.
Oh.
No one, and I think that's part of the problem, is that, you know, some of the fringier elements kind of jumped onto this thing and they think it's an opportunity to take out the government, and it's not an opportunity to take out the government. And I'll be honest, I don't want to live in a country where a bunch of people can just go to the Capitol and change a duly elected official. You know, if there was election fuckery or something like that, and we can find that out, that's one thing. But, you know, if I had voted Justin Trudeau into power, which I didn't, but if I did, and a bunch of people could just sort of show up and change that, I don't think I'd be thrilled about that either. And I think that's the main point to get across here, is that nobody wants the government to change. We just want the government to maybe pay attention and to maybe stop the coalitions within the government that are happening that shouldn't be happening already. I mean, I don't think party politics should be legal. I mean, I think all of party and partisan politics should be illegal. I mean, if anything, these guys should be doing their partisanship in secret behind closed doors and trying to keep it from us. But instead, we've gotten into such a situation in the West that, you know, we've joined up on teams. And so now my constituent or my representative is almost guaranteed to vote along party lines, as opposed to what the fuck me. So even if 95% of the people in my constituency want one thing, my guy's going to vote for whatever his party tells him to. And I think in my opinion, that's the number one thing wrong with Western democracies today, is political parties.
Well, just to clarify, yeah, the media is. I was kind of trying to highlight the idea that that's what the media, the truckers really just want to get rid of these mandates, and yet the media is painting this picture like it's like they're terrorists or domestic terrorists. So you're right. I'm glad you clarified that, because that's really what they want, and they're doing a good job of painting that picture. In the U.S., when you look at these, you know, it looks like riots and like all this craziness. It seems believable. You know, it seems, when you really get to the origin story of it all, it's like they just don't want to be mandated to be vaccinated. They just don't want to be, you know, they just want to relieve some of these mandates. So yeah, without a doubt. I mean, the whole political thing, that's an interesting way of looking at it. I mean, I think there's obviously issues with it, but I mean, it's a shame that it's all theater anyways, because I mean, the whole purpose of it is like, okay, this person's ideology or their worldview or the way they look at issues is similar to mine. And then we just put a label on that, and then that's a political party. You know, that's the way it should work. And the truth is, none of them really care about ideologies. None of them really care about morals or standing for anything. It's you know, it's whatever gains them power and profit.
The whole system should be just like jury duty.
It's job security, guys. They gotta keep their job, right? So
pissed off when he has to go be a MP. I want him to open up the mail and be like, fuck.
Yeah, that's how it.
I got to go be a congressman for 2 fucking years. This is bullshit. You know, I don't want the guy who wants to make $1 million. I want people to be frustrated. God damn it. I got to go be the mayor.
Have you seen the little clip from The Simpsons about the trucker convoy?
It was 2 merged together, though. Wasn't it?
Yes, there was 2 merged together. I haven't seen either in its original form, but now that you both have joined, John and Tees, do you think that perhaps this is a part of a plan towards joining North America, Canada, and the United States, where Canada can say, we need your help, America, and then a civil war erupts, and then you're one step closer to a new world order, because now North America is one country?
I really love how you qualify that in a narrative scaffolding that is required in order for the public to accept it as truth, because that's in essence how this works. Much like a vine that you're trying to get to grow on a particular trajectory, you have to put up what will then grow along in order to justify that kind of creature coming into being. And that's very much what we're seeing, is the micromanaging of that sort of narrative scaffolding being erected in order to steer us in particular directions. The Simpsons does that. So it's a great point to bear. Yeah, I definitely see us increasingly moving in those directions, and it becoming more and more difficult, because all of these things, if you really boil it down, is nothing but superficial labels in a variety of different ways that are used to subvert or convolute our understanding of objective truth. And so
Right.
that's really what it is trying to destroy objective truth and our understanding of what is actually happening, so that that narrative scaffolding can be erected so that we'll graft and align ourselves with it rather than what's actually legit. And so, yeah, that's what the war of the future looks like, is that whole process over and over and over and over again until people actually wake up and realize what's real.
Yeah, very well said. Thank you.
And
You ever-
and these guys.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Ask Tease if he ever has problems with women fainting when everything that comes out of his mouth sounds like poetry.
Oh, dude, women do not enjoy listening to me talk. It's not a thing. Oh, man. If I lived in a world where that was something, no, okay, but not a thing. Thank you, Ricky. By the way, you have a lovely voice, Ricky.
He knows that. I get blushy. I'm getting blushy.
I know, that's my favorite thing, is to make Ricky blush. I want to see like a compilation of him blushing every time. It's so good.
Yeah, all that this is though is it's a planned like big international government. You know, they've been having these plans, you know, for a very long time, for hundreds of years. There's always been a dream of this being accomplished, and of course there's minions around that, you know, write stuff like this. Like if you see here, the redesign of the global financial architecture, the return of state authority. It's a guy that sits at an NGO called Stu P. McIntosh. And it's these guys in the background that we never heard about. Like these are in control. Like this guy here works with something called the Financial Stability Board, which guess what? Guess who sat as the head of the Financial Stability Board? Former Goldman Sachs and Canadian Mark Carney. And where is Mark Carney right now? You know, the guy that ran the agency, basically, that put in banking legislation and financial legislation for the whole world, for all the G20s. Where is he now? He's in Canada. He's in Canada trying to push the sustainable development and finance ESG agenda onto, you know, the Canadian finance sector right now. So like these guys are hiding in plain sight there in a little minions that are running around basically, but they're on top. Like they're part of certain organizations like the Rockefeller Foundation, so many different think tanks around. And they're, you know, the World Economic Forum, I call the corporate part of the United Nations, basically, because they are pushing the ESGs that, you know, comes from Our Common Future. Guess what? Who wrote Our Common Future that turned into Agenda 21? That was Gro Harlem Brundtland from Norway, former Prime Minister. What? Oh, the Labour Party, and also the World Health Organization chief a while back. Now she sits on the Elders Council. Which is like a council, like a global big council of like big names or whatever. So these guys are sitting in the background, making policies, pushing this agenda, and it's happening. Like I got pretty scared here in Canada because I think it was 2016, 17 in Manitoba. Suddenly we had a Ministry of Sustainable Development. And that is a big red warning flag right there. And so this is interesting. So we got media. We're talking about the media, how the media is just portraying, you know, Canada like nothing, like the police is doing a great job. Meanwhile, they're cracking skulls, running over old people with their horses and all this stuff. I had my run-in with media. I tried to start a provincial party, not the federal party. So provincial, you basically run it's like a state in the United States. And so what I tried to run was basically cut government in half, you know, all this fun stuff. And nobody didn't really like that. So what ended up happening, I ended up going for a 3 weeks vacation down to the States, doing a whole bunch of things, running around, like speaking at a couple of conferences, come back. Guess who's sitting there in the chair trying to take over my party? It's none other than a guy called Bob Axworthy. And who's Bob Axworthy? Well, he's one of the chairs, or counselor, you know, chancellor, I think they called him at the University of Winnipeg. And his brother is none other than former foreign minister of Canada, Lloyd Axworthy. He was trying to take over my party. And then meanwhile, actually one of the guys that came into my party, snuck in and then like acted like he was a libertarian guy, suddenly he turns around, he's on media, he's on CTV, and then he's getting asked, basically, it's like, what's your platform? And then he spouts the Liberal platform. It totally destroys the credibility of our party. Well, guess who that was? He's actually one of Justin Trudeau's best friends. Justin Trudeau came to watch his wife give birth. That's how good buddies they are. Very weird, but yeah, that's how good buddies they are. And he actually told me as well, like talk about the collusion. Oh, it's collusion from America. GoFundMe. We were funded by all these insurrectionists at January 6th. Well, guess what? During the Canadian election that Trudeau got into party in 2015, guess who helped them? It was actually it was Obama's campaign managers that came over to Canada and did a little tweaking. Instead of change, there was real change in Canada. And he told me this like in great confidence that, he was so proud of it right out there. And of course, we had the Winnipeg Free Press wrote a hit piece on me, which is basically owned by Rothschild's consortium group. And a whole bunch of other, major mainstream media there. Everybody came after us. And then on top of that, Elections Manitoba, we had 7,500 signatures. We thought that would be more than enough to get 5,000 to get party status. They canceled 5,000 of them and said that they were null and void, basically. And so everybody's against you. It's like a big, basically control grid with the major parties, and nobody's allowed to enter in and try to do something. Now, Maxime Bernier did a little bit of that with the People's Party of Canada. Now, Maxime Bernier is a very interesting guy. I talked to him a couple of times in person, and he told me that he wants a banking system in Canada that's basically 100% reserve banking, which is basically like there's none of this BS right now that we basically have no cash in the banks. And there's actually a bank run happening now in Canada. Like people are trying to pull their money out, like the truckers and everybody surrounding them is actually bank run is the one thing that they're talking about because banks in Canada have no cash at all. They have no cash, and so if only 1 to 5, maybe even 2-3% pull their money out of their bank account in one bank, it would go bankrupt right away. So that's on top of that. Sorry for rambling on here. I just you get really frustrated with these guys and how much control they have, around and how they really sabotage you if you try to really do something good.
So you got a taste of the dirty political game, John.
Definitely. I'm not touching politics ever again in my life, to be honest with you. That's how saddened and disgusted I am.
But it's unfortunate. That's the game, and you can only like Darren said, it's like I want people who get like kicking and screaming to get involved in politics, like that, not wanting to, because anybody who actually strives to be a politician, they're probably a little fucking crazy or egotistic or
greedy.
Or greedy. Yeah. Without a doubt. I mean, why are there so many multimillionaire politicians when they make, what, even the highest paid ones make hundreds of thousands maybe a year, not millions, and they're all multimillionaires? It's like, where's that money coming from? Obviously
engagements. They get a lot of money on speaking engagement, where Ron Paul gets 50,000, they get 500,000 for speaking at JP Morgan's, conference or something like that, right? So, it's all a game. It's like who can pay us off when we're done? Like either create a book or something like Anthony Fauci did, or like Hillary Clinton. You just create a book so they could pay you off, basically. That's how it works.
For speaking engagements, by the way.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I got great entry level rate. 250,000.
There you go. You can speak at the Trudeau. You can speak at the what was that We Foundation? Where Trudeau basically had his family speak.
Well,
for 250,000. His mom spoke for 250 grand.
The Liberal Party is blocked on Twitter, so don't see that happening anytime soon. Here's the thing to remember, though. I mean, in some sense, this is all great. I mean, every day I get a phone call or a text from somebody who never was coming out of the Matrix. And they're like, wait a second, Trudeau can do what now? Or, something about the border or something about COVID. I mean, it's all COVID. I mean, it kind of starts with Trump. Trump started waking some people up to the media. I'm not supporting Trump or defending Trump or taking any sides on Trump. I'm just saying that whole Trump thing started something. where people were like, well, wait a second, the media just hates this guy. Then COVID kind of kicked that ball down the field even more. We're not everybody, but a bunch more people are like, wait a second, we're doing what for this? And as that sort of played on for 2 more years, a little more came out. And I mean, I think that plays out right now into the Freedom Convoy, woke some more people up. I think there's a real good chance that fucking jag nuts is probably going to support Trudeau's Emergencies Act today. And that kind of seems like it sucks, right? Here's the thing.
Who is
The
Jack?
amount of fucking actual NDP constituents that want the Emergency Act enabled is, in my opinion, very low. So I think it's one of those things where we have to be a little bit patient. I mean, you get the Freedom Convoy going and everything, and it's like, yeah, this is going to change now, this weekend or this month or this week. This is all going to change, but it's not gonna. It's going to take, I still think Trudeau is finished. It's just going to take, 30 to 60 days for that to trickle out. I don't think his party is willing to sacrifice him to the mob right now, but I guarantee you they don't want his ass running in the next election. There's no fucking chance they want Trudeau's face on the next election. So it all kind of sucks. But at the same time, it takes all of this, guys. It takes all of this. It takes the seized bank accounts. It takes the arrest in truckers. It takes the poor Mohawk lady getting trampled by horses. It takes 2 years of fucking COVID restriction. It takes doubling down on restrictions while the rest of the world is kind of opening up. It takes all that for fucking lackluster Canadians that have given away their country over the last 50 years by not paying a goddamn bit of attention to anything, to maybe say, what the fuck are we doing? How did it get like this? What did we do?
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe that's the hope. That's the hope. Because here's the thing, if none of this shit happened, then we're not, I would argue that we're closer to, or we've got more people listening to our side of the conversation than ever before. And I would say that it's probably gone up, 5, 10, 20x over the last 2 years of COVID. And I think that all these things, well, they can seem like, just barrages of bad news because we're just so zoomed in. But if we just sort of zoom out, it's like, oh, wait a second. If I compare where we are now and how many people are paying attention and how many people are outraged compared to where we were 3 years ago, I'd say we're making good progress. It's kind of like the Russia thing. If you zoom out on that, it's like, oh, wait, NATO's got Russia surrounded by military bases.
No, I was just going to say, and look at all the censorship all of us have dealt with, and we're still growing and we're still opening minds and opening eyes. Like just think about the power and the ripple effects we would all be creating if we were still on YouTube and if we weren't censored by algorithms on iTunes and all these other,
Sure.
We're going against all those restrictions, and yet people are still waking up. So it's, without a doubt, I think that's a positive thing.
A good example of that is right now, my Twitter account in the last 28 days is up like 650% on profile visits and on just general impressions. And that's, well, I'm being shadow banned to fuck, I'm certain. So I just think that, it's like we're people are pissed off enough because you're not just going to find our stuff, or you're not just going to find the Klaus Schwab stuff. You might now that Rogan brought it up, but a lot of this stuff that we're talking about, you're not going to just find until you go on your computer and actually start looking for it. You gotta, like really search, because you're not just going to stumble upon it anymore. And I think that the only way to get there is to we need a lot of smoke, maybe more smoke than we've got now. It seems crazy to think like that because we've been embedded in it for years and years and years. But there's people waking up every day. And I think we might need more smoke yet. Gordon White said astrologically, 2022 is a motherfucker, but 2023 looks better than ever. And maybe it's hard to think that it could get worse, but here we are. And, but I think it's important that we see the bright side. And that's that there's a reason all of our audiences are growing. There's a reason that there's protests in every single major city in Canada, at least right now. And that wasn't happening 2 years ago because, I mean, so many people are so numb to everything that it takes a jolt. It takes a jolt. And maybe Jagmeet extending the Emergencies Act and a few more bank accounts getting frozen, as much as it sucks to deal with, that might be what it takes for us to finally cut off this cancerous fucking lag.
Especially when the narrative's falling apart and the lies are so blatant that people are going to be like, oh, they're lying about this, but they haven't been lying to us for the last 2 fucking years.
Right.
So
My
you-
Norman
Yeah,
friends are waking up like crazy. It's unbelievable. I mean, Graham was in the car the other day when the one day I got a call from my buddy and he's like, I'm like, so we were in the States at the time. And I'm like, so I hear you guys are like martial lawing it up there now. And he's like, what? Oh, that. Oh no, that doesn't affect me. I don't pay attention to that. Same guy 2 days later calls me. Hey, what the fuck is this? Trudeau can freeze my bank account. And I'm like, well, that's what I was saying. And he's like, we need to go for lunch this week. And this is a dude that don't give a fuck about anything, you know, like he's not into our world at all.
And
But
we
he-
got through and Darren led us through the border without jabs, without passports, without apps, without testing, without masks. I shouldn't say passports. We had real
We had
passports.
passports.
Sorry, not,
I was
not
like,
the
wow.
not the fake jab ones or whatever, you know. So
Okay.
it's not as
Where-
difficult as it seems.
Where's
When was this, Graham?
Last week.
Last week
To go where from where?
from Arizona, we drove back from Arizona up to Canada.
So when Viva came out to the Project Veritas event in Miami, and I was like, how did Viva get out of the country? Is it because he's a lawyer or because he's vaccinated?
Well, he's jabbed, yeah.
He's jabbed. Okay.
You could just like, so nobody tells you,
But we drove down.
we drove down and, I mean, the thing is the States wants papers too.
Right.
The thing to think about is that nobody knows what each other's papers looks like. I'll leave it at that.
Right. Right.
To get on an airplane, WestJet, and I don't know see, getting into the States is tricky because Biden's being a cunt. But I know like to fly domestically in Canada, if I'm willing to pay for a notary and all that, there is a religious exemption for both airlines. And from what I've heard, they're not saying no to them. But so whereas your work and everything else will say no to your religious exemption for the vaccine, it looks like the airlines are still letting you fly, but it's going to cost you the price of a notary and all that.
I think
And that won't get you into the States anyway.
I
because
think that
right
goes
now
for medical exemptions too, actually, and for the domestic airlines.
they're being the airlines are being a lot more lenient on a bunch of things than the rest of the mandates were. And actually, another bit of good news in Canada is that both airlines are currently petitioning the federal government to get rid of it because it's costing them too much money. But other than that, I can't say anything about driving into the States. I can get into the States because I'm an Indian with a treaty card, so they treat me like a citizen. If you're not that, to drive into the States, you're going to have to have something because, you know, I'll leave it at that. You know, none of us are jabbed. We came up with some papers that maybe alluded to different. But they definitely ask you driving in. Now driving back into Canada is a different story because we're all Canadian, so they can't deny us entry. So that's where we can sort of push. We can come into Canada and say, did you do the app? Nope. Did you do a test? Nope. Are you vaccinated? No. And we can just sort of bully our way through. I had to block the federal government because they've tried calling me like a dozen times in the span of like 4 days. And I'm sure it's to tell me that I'm supposed to be quarantining again.
So just to clarify, because again, I live in the US. So in the US, we can travel on planes without having to show anything. There are certain places like, because I live in Massachusetts, if I want to go to a Celtics game or to a event, now Boston requires that you show a vaccine card and all that stuff. But I can fly without having to show any negative test or anything. So
Really?
To enter the US though, so to enter the US from Canada, you have to be vaccinated.
I'm referring to domestically. I can travel from one state to another. I've been to Florida and back a bunch without having to show anything. No negative tests. No, it's just when, you know, you're going to another country is when people are having issues with that. So in Canada, is that similar? You can
Flying domestically, they want you to be vaccinated right now. That's what you can get around with that religious exemption, but it's a giant pain in the ass.
You gotta drive if you want to go somewhere, if you haven't decided to take the forced vaccination.
But I have heard a few of people doing a religious exemption, and from what I've heard, they've all been accepted. It's
And
like
the border, like the U.S. border doesn't really care. I mean, they're not double checking anything. They just want
we
to.
showed them.
They're
3
just trying to
different
do their fucking job and check the boxes. I mean,
Well, we went to so I brought my kids to go watch pro wrestling some months ago, and this was before that they started enforcing the vaccine card in Boston. It was like right before they started doing that, and they were okay with showing a negative test. And I was like freaking out. I'm like, am I going to get this test in time? I'm like, am I going to be asymptomatic? I'm like, I don't want to ruin this event for the kids. You know, it's the first time them going to an event in a long time. And I get there, and like the guy is like, he's like some college kid who barely looks at it. And just like, yeah, you're good. And I'm like, are you effing kidding me? I'm like, I went through all this stress of like, okay, I want to make sure I don't ruin this for the kids. And I told the kids, I'm like, there's a small possibility we never know. I don't have symptoms. I'm trying to explain it to at the time, a 5 and 6 year old. So they don't hate me forever if we can't go. I was trying to explain it to them. So and I'm like, oh my God, this is all fucking theater. Like they literally just pretend they look at it. I'm like, well, I could have just screenshot an old one. They wouldn't even have looked at the date or anything. And so it's wild. And there are businesses too, like my gym, the owners of my gym, the manager's a friend of mine, and he was telling me that they have locations in New York, and they're not enforcing anything, no masks, no vaccine cards or anything like that. And businesses all over New York are doing that. So it is nice to see that people aren't really strict about this. I mean, it's just a matter of time. I'm hoping it's a matter of time before people are like, okay, I've had enough of this. Now, the concern is like, what's the next thing? And like T says, it's so true. It's baby steps. Everything's baby steps.
Yeah.
Like I mean, think about it. Like when people were talking about Bill Gates before 2020, when people were talking about transhumanism before 2020, when people were talking about, the social credit score before 2020, it seemed like a futuristic thing, way far in the future that we're never going to, we don't have to worry about in our lifetimes. And all these little things were happening. It was just like baby step after baby step into that direction, that by the time you get there, it's like, it's almost too late. And so that's the thing. It's like people have to realize that there's a lot of little baby steps, and the thing about baby steps, it's much more acceptable from the public's perspective. It's like, okay, they're just asking this. Everybody saw that or heard that that Jewish guy who lived through Nazi Germany and talked about how, like, first it's like, it's a little bit of an inconvenience that I can't, go here, or I can't go there. And then it's like, that little inconvenience becomes, now you can't travel to this part. Now you can't work next to this people. And it's just like little inconveniences that you accept. And it's like that boiling frog, metaphor. It's like, yeah, next thing you know, you're in boiling water. And that's what happened. It was like, oh, just stay home for two weeks, and then just do this, just do that. And all of us are like, hey, don't you see where the fuck this is going? And all the people who didn't see where it's going, I'm hoping now they're like, oh shit, I didn't see, I wasn't paying attention on the car ride here, but now that we're at our destination, take me back. That's what I kind of feel like is going on.
Yeah, it's been a slow trickle, hasn't it? And when you see, like, just go and look at, I remember traveling even when I was young, in the 1990s. I traveled to many places down in Europe with my family. There was no, like, even metal detectors a lot of places at the time. And of course 9/11 happened, and guess what? The security industry was there right away. Like now I'm watching, of course, my regular daytime job. I deal in security alarms and all this stuff. And guess what? One of the major companies that are out there, none other than Hikvision Technologies, which is a Chinese state-owned enterprise. They have their metal detectors with thermal scans right now, and you've got thermal basically scanning access control stations with the facial recognition control that can facial recognize you even with a mask right now. And they have AI that you could run on certain types of cameras that would do both masking, social distancing, and count people into stores. They have all these stuff available, and guess what? They want to sell it. You know, it's all about the money, guys. They want to sell this stuff, and they don't want to sit on this new technology now. So we're getting a lot of brochures, you know, like, hey, look at this fantastic new technology. You can do it at train stations, at airports, you know, like it's really cool stuff. But then meanwhile, we're sitting here and we know exactly what that is going to become a part of. It's going to become a part of that, you know, social credit score system that China already has, by the way. I've done an extensive presentation on that. That's available on my website that I did at the Red Pill Expo with Jadwick Griffin, and just explaining, you know, what is coming. And I just watching that slow trickle again, you know, like over time when you start reading history books, I focus on monetary history, and you see that slow trickle over time where certain things happen, you know, like the European Union. I remember Josh Sigurdson that I worked with a lot at World Alternative Media. He actually confronted this guy called Connor Black, a Canadian, and he was a Bilderberg Steering Committee member. He said, "Oh, we'd never discussed the European Union in Bilderberg." And guess what? Suddenly come leaks document, you know, from the meetings, and they had definitely, you know, were planning and plotting out the you know, the European the EU at the time. So you know, how to trust these guys. I never trust them, and you know, it's incremental. And as you know, we just heard Freeland said, you know, like, yeah, it's just temporary, but we're going to make this permanent. little trickle at a time there. You know, now they can go in and have a lot of power in the finance industry to track and trace transactions in the fiat currency system, right? So not very good. Let me tell a story actually about the whole virus thing, because I thought it was amusing. You know, everybody was panicking because one of my guys that I work with, and I worked with 4 guys at the time. We stayed at a house and we worked together in the same houses, like for like 2-3 days. One guy got sick. He then tested positive for COVID. He was actually non-jabbed. He had I think like the prior whatever thing, and then he got COVID again. He got sick for 2-3 days. But then this third, like there's a guy that was triple jab, the guy that was double jab. Both of them got sick. Guess what? I didn't get sick. I was with the guy. I drove the guy home for 8 hours in the same car. And I did not get sick. Like everybody's just shocked. All my wife's sisters, nurses, you know, like they can't believe that. Like, what's going on with John? It's like, hey, take vitamin D. I told them. Just simple things, you know, keep yourself healthy. You know, you won't get sick very often. And people are starting to wake up to stuff like that. When actually I could tell finally a story, you know, that can convince people, because they'd be like, holy shit, I survived that. Like you know, like, so it's good that we like have those things on top of, you know, our belief. I know people have certain different beliefs about if it's a virus or not and all that stuff, but I definitely think it is some sort of, you know, an illness that's around, and it leaked potentially out of a Wuhan lab, but initially could have been worked on here in Winnipeg at our level 4 lab.
Right.
There's a lot of there was actually 2 Chinese scientists that were kicked out of the Winnipeg lab. And let me tell you a quick story about the Winnipeg lab. I talk around with a lot of people, and one of my friends, he has his computer at this company that does CCTV cameras for certain corporations around the city. And this guy was telling, like, you wouldn't believe this. Like, you know what they did at the level 4 lab in Winnipeg? Like, they actually took out all the inside cameras. And then what they did is that they told us actually to hold the recordings for a certain period of time. Yeah, that's like unheard of. And if you're in the security industry and you do that, that's unheard of. Like, you don't do that. You don't suddenly just like remove inside cameras, especially at a level 4 lab. I worked at influenza vaccine labs for Emergent and other different labs like that. They have cameras everywhere. So something sinister was happening in Winnipeg. And of course, the Prime Minister gave a redacted document. He doesn't want to share what happened there as well. So that's another thing on top of all this stuff that we're talking about.
There's also, I mean, if you believe in the germ versus terrain theory, I've been around sick people coughing on me, not gotten sick. Before you jumped on and mentioned that I was sick with something for 3 weeks. but it wasn't from, I don't think it was the Rona, because it had no respiratory issues. So it really, I really believe it's the quality of your immune system. If you keep it bolstered and you don't have to fall prey. And think of all these nurses that have been around and are on the front lines, and yet they're being fired and gaslit because they don't want to get a jab. So
Yeah, problem is what we're fighting too. It's like we have Western medicine versus natural medicine. There's Chinese medicine as a part of natural medicine and all this stuff. Like there's not just one side of it right now that we have with the big, especially in Canada, it's a monopoly on healthcare, right? So what Canada is seeing is basically the pharmaceutical industry in control over everything. And of course, when you have a monopoly on healthcare, you know, they can push stuff like that. They get away with it a lot easier in the United States, where there's some kind of private sector to the healthcare sector. So it's a lot easier to push the agenda of these big pharmaceutical companies that are making billions of dollars off of this stuff. And there's also rumors that, you know, Trudeau and the NRC, the National Research Council, which is a government organization, do have the patent for the nanolipid particle.
Yeah, that's right.
What's the name of the guy again? Martin something.
David Martin?
David Martin.
Yeah,
that came out with actually that information. So there's a lot of questionable activities that are around there. But then on top of that, like we were facing like these structures that we built have become so corrupt, and they're using these structures. Like you got to remember that vaccines are way faster to be pushed through. And then now with what they did with COVID, now they could probably get a lot faster. And all of these, like literally, like the FDA was caught. You know, this guy that was just at Project Veritas, he was talking about how, you know, they receive kickbacks and all this different stuff, you know, from the pharmaceutical industry. So it's just so corrupt, like all these government agencies.
John,
That's the problem with the government. It always creates corruption because people could come in, use government to, you know, implement whatever they want.
Your microphone sounds like it, whatever wire was you were messing with before, it got a little quieter.
Oh, hello? No?
Yeah, we hear you. It just got quiet. Is it just me, or did you guys?
Yeah, no, that happened. Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. Well, let's wind it down a little bit with because there's a few of us, and I want to get everybody's kind of input on how do you feel about like how this is gonna end? Like, are you guys optimistic? Are you pessimistic? Do you feel like this is, you know, eventually Trudeau's gonna have to give in? Do you like just you know, let me know your thoughts. Anybody want to jump in? Jessica, I know you're probably maybe have you jump in before you pass out.
Sorry, I was reading an email that I shouldn't do that, but it's hard not to. What was the question?
Where do you think this is going to go? What are your predictions? With Canada, is Trudeau going to leave? Are we gonna...
I think that this is a long haul. I think Trudeau will go. I don't think anyone's going to be held accountable because they never are. I think the wrong people will be blamed. And I think this will happen all over again sometime in the future. I don't think this time they're going to succeed. So I think that, yeah, I'm still hopeful. Although I think the casualties will be very, very large. The thing that I'm worried about now is this new, these stories about HIV. You know, well, no, two different things. Like this, yeah, they're so nutso. You never know what they're going to do next. So like, what it appears to be from what I'm seeing in the peer-reviewed material and also the adverse events is that there is some kind of definitive immune dysregulation being caused by these products, which is not surprising to any of us who know anything about what this, like if the mRNA is even what they say it is, how devastating that could be. But we don't even know because we don't know what's in this shit. So like, it's not hard for me to believe that this is, I mean, it's a cumulative thing, which is why we're seeing the variability in the adverse events themselves and the populations, like the distribution of them throughout populations, because I think it depends a lot on your immune state prior. I think a lot of people are already suffering from chronic low levels of inflammation. So these shots are just like throwing gasoline on that fire. If you have a pre-existing condition, it's just going to get exacerbated. But it's all based on the immune imbalance. But there also seems to be an effect on the immune cells, like the CD8 positive T cells and the other mediators that regulate this system. And that is pretty much equivalent to an acquired immune deficiency syndrome. That's really what it looks like in a lot of people. So time will tell. But my fear is that they're going to launch this new version of HIV, and then it's going to be fake, you know, like the coronavirus was, in my opinion. But it's going to be, they're going to cover it up. They're going to, all these adverse events that are going to be the byproduct of these products, they're going to call a new virus. That's what I'm trying to say. So that's my concern. Because I mean, everyone's, or not everyone, but so everyone's in, most people are in this heightened state of fear. And if somebody hears HIV, they automatically get freaked out, you know? So we already have that. So imagine they start flashing that in the legacy media, that just those 3 letters, people are gonna like, they're gonna flip out.
Even though HIV doesn't lead to AIDS, and this was another Fauci led debacle controversy, and just like Zika is a benign virus that was patented by the Rockefellers, and in regards to the jabs, they are giving all different types of crap to people. Some people are getting the saline, but Del Bigtree had explained based on some discoveries of how it messes with the innate immune system and the toll receptors. And so then you become almost reliant on a booster because your immune system has been completely dismantled and fucked with.
Well, I don't know about that, but like, I do know that the mRNA that they are claiming that are, you know, the coding material of the spike protein wrapped in these fat bubbles have all the uridines replaced with these pseudo-uridines, which causes, it potentially can cause prion-like diseases. Right. And well, I totally lost my thought. Oh yeah, the reason for doing that, the justification was to fool the innate immune system and to make it less yummy to toll-like receptor 6, I don't know, anyway, one of them, which are these detector guys. So it was done by design, but like, it's so bizarre. It's like everything they did by design is so potentially dangerous. And according to my friend's recent FOIA request in Australia, where he asked for a list of 5 things pertaining to safety data in the experimental developmental phase of these products. He asked for 5 simple things. One of them was just a protein product, like the Western, the band. Anyway, I don't need to get into that, but just show us that these things, when they're translated, when the mRNA is translated, show us what it becomes. Show us that it's the spike protein. And they couldn't do it. They wrote, these documents don't exist. This came straight from the TGA. It's just like, we don't even have to talk about what the frickin' pseudo-uridines and the 2 P replacements did. It's just, yeah, so sorry, I'm starting to rant about the biology because it's late.
That's what you do when it's late.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Well, I'm still creating plots for people right now while I'm doing this. So anyway, yeah, I still have hope. I love my people. I love you guys. I think that we can't lose in a certain way, even if it means we're going to die. We're all going to die anyway, so it doesn't matter. But there's just nothing else for us to do. I mean, once you've seen, you can't not look. It's you just have to be who you are, and I think there are enough good people left. And what I'm hearing here, very good signs that people are like, wait, what did he say? Like people you'd never suspect would give you that phone call. That's really good. I mean, I don't think my parents are ever going to come over to this side, but hope springs eternal. That's what I think.
Well, while we go around and give our thoughts about the outcome of what's going on in Canada right now, let's also take that opportunity to plug your website and where people can get more from or keep up with your work if they want to.
Right. So I don't think we didn't catch up since I built this new website, Ricky, and I really did try and buy the URL Knowledge Balls, but it was taken. It was taken. I tried. So my website is Jessica.
You tried all of them, .org, .tv,
No, I didn't try all of them. I tried a few Knowledge Balls, but they were already taken. Anyway, so I do have a new website which I built called Jessica's Universe. It's chock full of analyzed VAERS data, absolute numbers, all my interviews, published papers, lots of good stuff on there if you want to stay up to date, because it's an updated system every time the VAERS data is updated. And I also have a Substack where it's kind of like the place where I've become a journalist. It's just like I get stuff from the inside and I write about it so everyone can know. It's jessicar.substack.com. And this is all I do. I disseminate information and hope that every day more people are getting it.
Thank you. Who wants to jump in next to kind of give us their perspective on possible outcomes, and then also let us know where they can keep up with you? Do I gotta pick some?
I'll let Grant give all our other information out. But I mean, I'm excited. I mean, it's the best time to be alive. Can you think of a better time?
Yes.
Yeah.
100,000 years ago, man.
I could actually.
I don't know that would have been better. We wouldn't be chatting.
Well, I would be running around in a jungle somewhere, man.
There would be. I mean, there's a bonus to running around in a jungle someplace. But I mean, I like the tech, and I like the being able to see the world, and I like that I'll get to see all the national parks of America. That shit I wouldn't have been able to do without like a truck and stuff. So I think I'll take now and hope for the best. I mean, it's exciting. It's exciting. It's not boring.
That's for sure.
I'm optimistic.
I am too. I really am. I
am 3.
That's 3 votes. John's having a flashback to politics. Voting.
And I'll go after Darren too, because I'll just throw out the website and stuff too. I think there's going to be some parallel systems created. There's already some wellness groups that are going around Canada, and hopefully they'll leave us alone for after this whole thing quiets down a little bit, so that these parallel systems can start to develop a little bit now that there's more people kind of jumping off the fence and seeing what's going on. So, I mean, I'm hopeful about that. Hopefully they'll keep their hands off for the most part, and people will keep waking up. You can find our stuff at grimerica.ca, and Darren wrote a book called A Canadian Shame. That's linked there too, a canadianshame.ca. We do audiobooks at adultbrain.ca. and our Outlawed show, which is sort of a subscriber-based podcast, Grimerica Outlawed. So thanks for having us on. It's good to see everybody.
Ricky.
Oh, thanks for joining me, guys. It's always a blast, and obviously all you guys have been on the Union of the Unwanted, so that's some of you guys might be familiar faces on my show and on that show. So I'm sure a lot of people know who you guys are. Miriam, you want to jump in next and let us know what you're up to? Or you're still working on the film and the book, right? That's still.
Yes, I've just moved finally after 3 months of searching in Florida. So now I'm gonna hunker down. The federal trial of the George Floyd debacle event is underway for the 3 officers right now. Most people don't know that. So it seems to me that they're kind of, that this was like a drill and they're doing a post-mortem granular because you have rookies and a field training officer. So that's going on now. And then the state trial is pushed to June. So I'm working on a documentary and a book and am a George Floyd connoisseur. And I continue to write for Vaxter. You can find me on Rockfin. I just recently interviewed Celia Farber and Jack Cashel, who's written about Obama. And I'm working on a story regarding the 15th monkey that just died in reference to the Neuralink by Elon Musk, courtesy of Charlie Lieber. And so I have an interview shortly coming up to discuss that because they're moving forward with human trials, even though 15 monkeys have died. I'm super grateful to be here. I go by the Bee Lady on Gab TV, and I'm a real journalist, not a prostitute or a parrot. Thank you.
You also on Rockfin, right?
I am on Rockfin. I am on Rockfin as Miriam Hinane. I'm very excited about that opportunity to grow. Yeah, thank you, Ricky.
Yeah, any platform. I keep saying, I'm like, any platform that will let me just put out these conversations, I'll go on there. I don't, and we need them because obviously, we need to be able to share this information, and any platform that's going to help us, regardless if they agree with us or disagree with us, none of that matters. If you let me put these conversations out there, I'm going to use it. I mean, I recently just joined Band.video.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't agree with everything on Band.video, but if it's a platform that's going to let me post my conversations, well, why not use it? Why not expand the audiences a little bit? So without a doubt. And so real quick, Miriam, optimistic about the future?
I am optimistic about the future. Where I am, I believe there's magic in Florida. I think there's, it's what you make of it. I've often said, you can make heaven or hell on this earth. And I've had Prison 101 projected on me, and I refuse after 2 years. I want to have community. And so I am, in regards to Canada, I believe that a lot of people have woken up. This has been a beautiful movement. I'm grateful for my brother and sisters in Canada. With that said, let's see if they use it for a nefarious agenda, such as a civil war or joining America and Canada. We'll see.
Jeez, John, you want to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let me, I've been thinking about it a little bit here, what could happen. Now, just watching and kind of studying a little bit, his character and persona and what he does, I think that Trudeau is a textbook totalitarian type of leader, unfortunately. He's a little bit psychotic. Like, he basically goes out and blatantly just says that, people are waving swastikas and all this stuff. So I think that he's going to hold on. He's going to double and triple down probably potentially now. I heard some rumors the reason why the provinces are relinquishing their passports right now for vaccines. Like, here we had a QR code here in Manitoba, and it's been extremely restrictive. They're talking about potentially making a federal one, so it's better, for travel and all this stuff. And also there's a big, massive development that nobody's talked about. IATA, IATA, International Aviation Transportation Agency, have made something called the IATA Pass, where you could upload your passport into a digital app, and then also your vaccine passes and all this stuff. And that has not even been talked about. That's in the background. And IATA is basically all air companies that are working together. So that is the development. I think we're just going to get more and more of the same. The problem that they might run into, and we're starting to see it in several countries now, is the trust in these guys, in our money itself. I feel that, here in Canada, we've seen in tremendous inflation. Like I work ordering a whole bunch of parts for my company. I go to the store. My stuff is, and it's technological stuff. It's not going down. It's up 15 to 50% in price. So, and when you go to the store, anywhere from 10 till 30, 40% price increases. I think that could be a drop in the bucket, and every time it happens, you end up like these guys over here. They're destroyed currencies, like from Venezuela, Germany, Zimbabwe, Hungary, and all other countries.
Yeah.
I predict that something like this will happen, and then no matter what, because Trudeau is spending more and more money, he's basically haven't had a real budget in 2 years now, and so I predict that we're probably going to see them, using this as potentially a capital control for flight of currency when we get, what I just mentioned, a distrust in the currency, and that will lead to a hyperinflationary scenario here in Canada with the insane spendings that's been going on. And so I predict that something like that could happen within the next year or so. And that Trudeau is still probably be in power and tripling down, unless they replace him with Klaus's minion, Freeland, of course, because you got to replace one that is, bad with somebody that's worse. So that could also happen as well, because there's no way, like, is distrusting Trudeau now. And I'm not just hanging around conservatives. I'm hanging around people that are liberal and whatever. So you're going to see Trudeau's rating is just right in the garbage right now. He's just going to double and triple down until he probably will get removed. Like, he's a psychopath and a narcissist, I think. So that's my prediction going forward. I know it's not very bleak. I know that initially, but what was mentioned, building up parallel societies, that is one of my focuses as well right now, where we do have those systems in place when this SHTF basically. So I feel that it's very important to prepare, and so that's what I try to do with what I do, to get, especially together with Tim Pachot at the Liberty Advisory. We have something called the Tim and John Show. So if you go to timandjohnshow.com, or you could check out my website, where I post a tremendous amount of data and information on money and economics and finance, theeconomictruth.org.
Nice. Last time I saw a Tim and John show, it was in St. Catherine Street in Montreal. I'm kidding. It was a joke. Sorry, I think I get silly when it gets late too. Tease, do you want to jump in next?
Yeah, for sure. So to clarify what I do, I'm an artist first and foremost, and I've been a part of the truth movement for about 15 years now, insofar as my own personal research and venturing into understanding what is going on. And I approach my work is all about using controversy as a method within narrative that you can sort of welcome people to have a conversation that would otherwise be very, very difficult to have if you weren't presenting it using the artistic lens. So I've created a show called Conspiracy Synergy, which is about introducing normies and everyone out there in the world that is yet to be exposed to people like us to that community in a very hospitable and palatable way. So it's an outreach tool for everyone to be able to introduce their friends and family who previously might have thought all of this was just too crazy, but now they just want to understand what the objective truth is. And so for them to be able to access that, all they have to do is go to conspiracysynergy.com. And it's a really, really great tool. That is, it's not a podcast. I'm only able to do one every about 3 or 4 months because it's an extremely highly edited product where I'm micromanaging syllables, because people are visual learners. A lot of the time, if you give them something that pops up in the process of explaining it, their sort of roof brain chatter doesn't lead them astray, and they're able to come back and just be like, oh, that's what you meant by it. I was going to interpret this other thing, but fortunately you were able to help to keep me kind of on the train of thought that you were providing. And so that's something that's very important insofar as laying down the basic framework and groundwork of what people are desperately hungry for, which is in essence a deeper understanding of the truth. And then I introduced them to all of you, and to Ricky, and to Mark Passio, and to Corbett and Richard Grove, and so many different content creators. as a way of getting all of us on the same page. Because once we do that, we can start building up from that in an upward trajectory that is exponential. And that's what my sort of prediction for the future is that it is cumulatively coming to bear the fruits of the labor that we have all collectively put into this for so long, such that at this seminal moment in time, we're going to be there to help people orient themselves rather than fall into the trenches of despair that would otherwise seek to disorient them. And so once again, that's conspiracysynergy.com. It's an outreach tool for you, your friends and family. It's very different. Check it out. You'll have a good time.
Yeah, it's a great way of opening somebody or red pilling somebody, for lack of a better term, because he does it with humor, he does it with historical references, and it's like baby steps, right? So it's like you're kind of laughing, you're learning a little bit about history, and then he starts connecting those dots. So and because it's visual and it also has humor and stuff, I think it's really easy for people to digest. So I highly recommend people checking out his show. Thanks all of you guys for coming. I really, really appreciate it. And that was a joke. But
Hey,
That was good. Great. Yeah.
Hey, I got one more thing that I want to mention. It's actually a project that I'm doing right now, and I'm going through every global leaders for tomorrow, young global leader, and I'm making a massive database on them with a lot of data and information where they're at and what they've done and all this stuff. So if anybody's interested, let me know to
And
help.
Thanks for doing that. That's awesome.
It's right now. It's in a Google. No, it's in a spreadsheet right now, which is offline. So that's. But yeah, if anybody's interested and they want to collaborate, let me know, and then we could potentially put it online, and we could just put names and data and everything in there.
Okay, awesome. And where do you think you're going to eventually post it if people are?
Some form of database on my website, probably, that people could search through in great detail. I've seen some people have done it, but this one is quite more extensive. I'm about 300 people in right now. So you'll get like their background and what they did before and all this stuff. So it's I think it'll be very interesting.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, guys, for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ricky.
I'm leaving the show with positive feelings. I feel like we're going in the right direction, and just like an addict, sometimes you have to hit the bottom and before you kind of pull yourself up and fix things. I feel like that's kind of what the world's doing right now. It's like we've been pushed too far, and we hit ground zero, and now we're like rising up to it all. So I'm very grateful to have all you guys who are everybody's. I say this all the time. I'm so grateful for everybody in the community, everybody because we're all contributing to waking people up. That we're running into everybody's shows, everybody's work, everybody's interviews, and everybody's just throwing out red pills everywhere, hoping that somebody catches one in their mouth. And so so I think we're all contributing to this, and we all have contributed. I said it before with oh yeah, Jessica's a big cat friend.
Me too.
Just waving hello.
Hi, here's mine.
Also on YouTube, that would get me more.
Ladies.
We got more cats in the video. That helps.
You can follow my Pomeranian on Instagram.
Hey.
You get his mouth moving and like spreading truth. No, you don't do any of that.
I've actually done that. Unfortunately, yes, I have gone that way.
That would make headlines, like dog gets banned for spreading COVID misinformation. But thanks again, guys. I really appreciate it. Hopefully we all collaborate again in the near future, and we'll talk again soon. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Bye.
Everyone.